Hey everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I'm doing my review for my 2021 Marin Rift Zone 2. I've had this bike for a little over 4 months now, got it back in January, and I absolutely love it. And I want to talk about it and say what the things I like about it, don't like about it, and the specs this bike has. So let's get into the video. So first thing first, we'll talk about the specs in this bike. Sorry if it's a little bit dirty, I cleaned it, but I didn't clean it that good, I just realized. So yeah. So we got 27.5-inch wheels, we got V-Tire flow snap wheels, and Marin rims, and we have Shimano free hubs. I'll show you guys what the rear one sounds like later in the video. Got the Shimano Dior 12-speed cassette and derailleur. Got 52 tooth cassette in the back. It's really good shifting, super smooth. It's pretty good price too. Got a 32 tooth chain ring in the front with Comet cranks. And we have these pedals, which I'll talk more about later. Got the RockShox Deluxe Select rear shock, about 125 millimeters of travel, and it's really good, but I do want to upgrade it soon. Got a Marin seat. It's pretty comfy, but it's not the best thing in the world. Another thing I'm definitely going to upgrade eventually. And here is the dropper post. It's a 150 millimeter Transx dropper seat post. Works pretty well, but the lever isn't that good. Got a 35 millimeter Marin stem and 780 millimeter Marin handlebars. The Shimano Dior shifters, they work really smoothly and very nice. I have the Shimano BR MT200 brakes on the front and rear, and it has 180 mil brake rotors. And it will have 130 millimeter RockShox Recon front fork, and it works really nicely. So now I'll talk about the couple upgrades and things that I've added to this bike. So the not least important one, or I guess the least cool one, is this bottle cage. Yeah, I got it a long time ago from my old bike, and I just threw it on this one. Got these Race Bros pedals, which are knockoff to the Race Face Chesters, but they work as good, and they're cheap, got for Christmas. I have Race Face crank boots. I just got these the other day, and they're cheap, so I might as well bought them, and they look pretty good. I got these grips. I don't know what they're called. Got them for Christmas, but they're pretty good, and they've been holding up really goodly, so yeah. And I also got a RockShox mud guard. I got this the other day, too. And I like it a lot because it's been a little bit muddy the past few days of the trails, so yeah. And last thing, I bought these last night. I bought new brakes. I'll talk about why I bought new brakes in a second, but I bought the Shimano Dior brakes, so they'll be coming in the mail on Wednesday, and I'll make a video with installing them and a review on them. Here's what the hub sounds like. Not bad sound, to be honest. So that's the specs on the bike, and now I'll talk about the actual review and how I like this bike. So I'm just gonna do a couple pros and cons for the bike, and then my final thoughts at the very end. So the first pro on this bike are the forks. These forks felt way nicer than I expected them to. I absolutely love them. They have a good amount of adjustability, and they look super clean as well. If you're looking for a fork that doesn't break the budget and it'll be real good, this is definitely one to go with, because this fork costs about 350 bucks. Or if you're looking for a bike and it comes stock with this fork, I recommend you get it, because this fork is super good, and this fork will be one of, if not the last thing that I upgrade on this bicycle, because it is super good. Once again, it's the RockShox Recon, 130 millimeters of travel. First major con are these brakes. I've had problems with these brakes ever since I got the bike. Front one has always been super squeaky, and then but they work pretty good for a little bit. But then after a month, the front one stopped working, and I couldn't do stoppies or anything. My back one still worked pretty good. But for the past 3 or 4 weeks, both brakes have not been working that good. And they still stop me, but not super good. And if I was on the trail and I would slam my rear brake, it wouldn't even skid for the first couple of seconds. So that's why I bought new brakes. Next pro are the tires that come with this bike. V-Tire is known for making more budget-friendly tires for budget-friendly bike. My brother's budget-friendly Heart over here has V-Tires, and some of my friends' bikes have V-Tires on them because they're nice budget bikes and budget tires. But these are their flow snaps, and these are their more higher-end ones, and they are really good. I'm still going to upgrade them soon. I'm going to get some Maxxis tires in this a little bit, but these things worked really well for as long as I had them. And if you, once again, like the fork, if you're looking for some cheap and good tires, I definitely recommend getting these. I don't know how much they cost, but I doubt it's too much, considering it's on a budget-friendly full suspension mountain bike. Second con is the rear shock. Now, it's not bad. The rear shock works good, but it is a budget-friendly one, and it has some problems getting it set up good at first. When I first got it, it was felt pretty weird, but we adjusted it a little bit, and now it feels pretty good. and it does bottom out pretty easily. Like if I do a pretty small jump, the O-ring will go all the way down here. And I've tried doing as much as I can with the air and all of it, but it doesn't do too good. This is probably the most nitpicky of all the cons that I have in here, but it's still worth mentioning. And I'm saving up for a RockShox Super Deluxe rear shocks, about 500 bucks. It's gonna be wild till I get it, but can't wait to get that shock on this bike. So yeah. Next pro is the shifting slash drivetrain. This bike actually shifts really, really well, and I wasn't expecting it to shift as well as it did. The Shimano Dual isn't their fully budget ones for Shimano, but if you don't want to spend money on the SLX or STXs, this is your best bet for me. Tons of gearing range, and it shifts almost immediately. Sometimes when it's really muddy out, it's not the greatest, but usually it's really good. Also, my chain needs a little bit to ignore the fact that it looks kind of dry. That's why. Next con is the dropper lever post. The actual dropper post itself is really good, and I'll actually talk about that in a second. The lever has been really hard to work with since the day I've gotten this bike, and it's just gotten worse over time. I'm 100% upgrading this dropper post lever, but they're surprisingly kind of expensive. Like the lone tooth ones, whatever the heck they're called, are like 80 bucks, and the one-up ones are 50 bucks. But I'm probably gonna get the one-up one because it's budget, and from what I've seen, it works pretty well. I don't know which just with this bike, but my friend has a dropper post lever that's really, really similar, and his works really good. So I'm not sure. It still works, but you gotta really push it down to get it going. But my next pro is the actual dropper post itself. This thing is super nice to have, and I didn't find a hype about them before. But once I had one, these things are a life changer. They're really good for uphills, of course, and also for pedally trails. And some of my local trail system is pretty pedally on a lot of the trails, so this thing is a lifesaver for me. Before my old bike, I'd be pedaling while standing up the whole time, and I was gassed. But with this thing, I can keep my energy a lot more, and this thing's gonna be really good for racing once I start doing races later this year. And that's all the pros and cons, and obviously the bike has more pros and cons because this bike truly is amazing. For a little over $2,000, you're getting a really good budget-friendly full suspension bike, and I'm so lucky that I was be able to buy this bike. There aren't many other bikes for this price that are this good, and most of them are either really cheap, not good full suspension bikes, or hardtails. But if you don't want a hardtail and you want a good full suspension bike for the price, this thing is definitely the way to go, in my opinion. I will continue to ride this bike and upgrade it. Like I said, new brakes are on the way. Eventually, I'm getting new tires and a new rear shock and all that stuff, new dropper lever. Those are some of the main things I want to upgrade soon. But besides that, everything else I'm going to keep for a little while, especially these magnificent forks. And now I'll be telling you guys how it performs while riding and doing a voiceover from some clips of me riding this magnificent full suspension mountain bike. So the first I'm talking about is how this bike does on tech trails. I've ridden a lot of tech trails with this bike because my local trail system has a lot of rocky tech trails that you're seeing right now. And this thing does amazing on tech trails. I used to not go as fast on this tech trail with my old bike, and some features I wouldn't hit. That's on this tech trail, but now I easily do it with this bike. And it's so fun and so smooth, and I go so fast in it now. These clips aren't as good because this is like the day of I got my bike, so I was still getting used to it. But it was a lot easier to get used to riding tech than it was to riding jumps. So for tech, I'm going to give this bike easily a 10 out of 10. Next is jumping slash drops. Just getting air in general. It was definitely a little harder for jumps. Drops, it was easy because it was way smoother when I did it, and drops feel amazing on this bike. But jumping, it did take a little bit to get used to since this bike was a lot heavier than my old one. But after you get used to it, it feels natural. And it's even better because the extra rear shock and the really good air fork, it just feels amazing when doing jumps and drops. So although it's a little hard to get used to it, and that's how it is with all new bikes, especially if it weighs more, which was the case for me. But besides the fact that it took me about a week to get used to hitting jumps again, because I was casing some of the ones I don't case before, it's really good. I want to give it a 9 out of 10 just because it took me a little bit to learn how to jump. Next is climbing. I don't have any climbing clips, but it climbs very well. And I'm just going to give it a quick 8 out of 10. Only reason why I gave it 9 out of 10 is because the dropper post lever kind of sucks, like I said. So sometimes it takes a little bit to get the dropper post to go up. Finally is how the bike pedals and how it rolls and stuff on flow trails and trails you pedal a lot. And it does really good. This pedaling is super smooth. The shifting works good when I need to shift. And on downhill places like Eureka, I go real fast. The tires make me roll fast down that. And it's overall just a great time. And I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 for riding and descending and all that, whatever you want to call it. So that's going to conclude my review for my 2021 Marin Rift Zone 2. This bike is so good. And if you want to get it and you're thinking about getting it, just get it, man. It's great for the price. And it will last you forever as long as you keep maintaining it well, cleaning it and just doing some checkups on it. And if you want to upgrade some of the parts that I recommend upgrading, or if there's anything that you would recommend to upgrade, I totally say you do it. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.